Welcome to the second of the four questions we are considering this week. Yesterday it was, who is Jesus? Why do we care about what Jesus says and what he claims? Today the question is, why did Jesus have to die? What's the big deal about the death of Christ? Most famous people are famous for how they lived, not how they died. And for that matter, even people, there's a lot of people whose deaths were spectacular. They died as a martyr, they died as a hero. Why is the death of Jesus Christ so prominent in the claims around Jesus and the Christian faith? So that's what we're going to focus on. And here's the challenge. These morning devotions are brief. They are 5 minutes. That's my target. And it's really hard to sort of summarize everything and do any kind of justice to it in 5 minutes. But I'm going to give you just a handful of points that frame everything and point to why Christ's death is so important. So the first point is to say that everything everywhere is made by God and for God. God owns everything. He created humankind in his image and sort of gave us vice-regency responsibilities over creation. So that's all Genesis 1 and 2, and everything's good. But in Genesis 3, sin enters the world. So the world works. The world worked when everything was rightly ordered, and in particular where God was first and the loves of people were rightly ordered. Those loves did not remain rightly ordered. Sin enters the world, evil, death, the curse, all kinds of things break because of sin. And so sin is not a popular word today. I understand that. I think increasingly, given how crazy it is out there at the moment, crazy days and crazy nights, given all the war, given all the injustice, given all the anger, given all the polarization, given all the murder, given all of that, I think most people are willing to admit something is wrong. And it's not just that something is wrong with us. We are broken. That brokenness is sin. Well, goes to the third point, and that is that God has a plan, a restoration plan. But in order for God to remain both completely loving and completely just, right, then the rebellion, the sin, the wrong has to be paid for. So what we call a judge who says to somebody who did something wrong, well, I'm just going to look the other way, or that doesn't matter, we call that judge unjust. In order for there to remain perfect justice, which is one of the claims that is made about God, God is perfectly holy, perfectly perfect, perfectly righteous. In order for God to remain perfectly righteous, but also to remain perfectly loving, something has to give. Well, in the Christian faith, and remember I said yesterday, the basic truths are not necessarily 1 + 1 or ABCs. There's some significant gravitas down here. In order for God to remain perfectly loving and perfectly just, there has to be one God in three persons. Because God is going to have to punish sin, but at the same time, love and care for the sinner. And the way he does that is through the death of his son. Jesus takes upon himself the punishment for my sin and yours. And this is an equation that gets sounded out in 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 24 and following. He himself, speaking about Jesus, bore our sins in his body on the tree, at the cross. So he himself, Jesus, bore our sins in his body on the cross so that we might die to sin and live for righteousness. By his wounds, we have been healed. So why is the death of Jesus Christ so important? It's because when you accept, Jesus dies in our place. He takes the punishment for our sin. That allows God to remain perfectly just and also to be perfectly loving. So, who is Jesus? He is God. He is God the Son. He is the fulfillment of prophecy. He is the Logos. Why did he die? He died so that we could be forgiven and reconciled to God. Have a good day.